The night it happened, the rain was louder than my heartbeat. I was sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the half-packed suitcase I'd promised myself I would finish days ago. Everything in my apartment felt temporary, like I was living in a place that wasn't mine. In a life that wasn't mine either. My coffee had gone cold, the clock on the wall had stopped ticking 2 weeks ago, and I couldn't remember the last time I laughed without pretending. That's when my phone buzzed a message from a number I hadn't seen in 2 years. "Are you home?" It said. My heart froze. It was her, Lena, the woman who had once made my world feel like spring and left me staring at the ruins of it when she walked away. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories that touch the soul. I didn't answer her right away. I stared at the message until the words blurred with the reflection of the rain on my phone screen. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend it never came. Another part, the foolish, stubborn part, still remembered the way her laughter could fill a room, the way her eyes softened when she said my name. Before I could overthink it, another message came. "Can I come over?" I have nowhere else to go. 10 minutes later, I opened the door. There she was standing in the hallway, drenched from the rain, her hair plastered to her face, clutching a small backpack like it was all she owned. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked tired, older somehow, but still achingly familiar. The woman who once left me because she said she needed to find herself now looked like she'd lost everything she found. I stepped aside and let her in. She hesitated, then whispered, "Is there space left in your bed?" Her voice cracked on the word space, and that's when I realized this wasn't a question about sleeping arrangements. It was about forgiveness, about whether the home she broke could ever be rebuilt. That night, she didn't sleep in my bed. She sat by the window, wrapped in one of my old sweaters, staring at the rain. I sat across the room, unable to look away. The silence between us said more than words could. At some point, she started talking slowly, cautiously, like she was afraid the truth might break her. She told me about the 2 years she'd been gone, how she'd moved to another city, chasing dreams that turned into debts, trusting people who turned into strangers. She spoke about nights when she slept in her car, about jobs that chewed her up and left her hollow. And then, quietly, she said, "I didn't realize what home meant until I lost it." Her words hit harder than I wanted to admit. I'd spent those 2 years trying to hate her, trying to erase her voice from my memories, her smile from my walls, but every time I thought I'd healed, I'd see something, a book she loved, a song she used to hum, and it all came rushing back. And now here she was, sitting in front of me again, asking for something she wasn't sure I could give. Days passed. She stayed. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that I was just helping her get back on her feet. But the truth was, I didn't mind her being there. The apartment didn't feel as empty anymore. She started cooking breakfast, humming to herself like old time. I'd wake up to the smell of coffee and find her sitting on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunrise like she was trying to learn peace again. But there were moments, small, fragile moments, that hurt more than any argument we ever had, like when she'd flinch at sudden noises or wake up gasping from nightmares, or when she'd say sorry for things that didn't need an apology. One night, I asked her what happened. She hesitated, then said softly, "Someone I trusted hurt me." I didn't think I'd ever feel safe again. My chest tightened. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. I just sat next to her, close enough for her to know she wasn't alone. For weeks, we danced around our past, careful, cautious, pretending not to remember how it felt to love each other. But then one evening, as we were cleaning up after dinner, she dropped a glass. It shattered on the floor, and she froze, eyes wide, breath trembling. I reached for her hand, and that's when she broke. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I don't deserve your kindness." I pulled her close, holding her as tightly as I could without words, because sometimes love isn't about fixing someone, it's about holding them through their brokenness until they remember they're whole. That night, she didn't ask to sleep on the couch. She quietly walked into my room, hesitated at the edge of the bed, and whispered, the same question as before, "Is there space left in your bed?" This time, I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once left because she thought freedom meant being alone, now stood there trembling, afraid to ask for a second chance. I reached out, took her hand, and said, "What if you said you wanted to stay forever?" She broke into tears, not from sadness but from something deeper, relief. That night, she lay beside me, her head resting against my chest, and for the first time in years I slept without feeling empty. The days that followed felt like healing in slow motion. We cooked together, talked about everything we'd avoided, laughed at old memories. There were still moments of silence, still shadows from the past, but they didn't scare us anymore. It felt like we were rebuilding something fragile but real. Then one morning, she woke me up before dawn. Her eyes were red from crying. She said she got a job offer in another city, a chance to start over properly this time. She told me she loved me, but she didn't want to trap me in the middle of her uncertainty again. She said leaving me once nearly destroyed her, but staying now without being sure who she was would destroy us both. I didn't say anything. I just held her hand. I wanted to tell her to stay, to choose us this time. But love, real love, isn't about possession. It's about giving someone the space to find their way back on their own terms. So, I let her go. The day she left, the rain came back, like the sky was grieving with me. She kissed my forehead, whispered thank you for forgiving me, and walked away. I stood there at the door long after she disappeared, the echo of her voice lingering like a song that wouldn't fade. Weeks turned into months. I went back to my routine's work. Coffee, quiet evenings, but something inside me had changed. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting. I had learned that sometimes closure doesn't come from words, it comes from peace. One cold evening, as I sat on the same bed where it all began, I found a note tucked under my pillow. I hadn't noticed it before. The handwriting was hers. It said, "If I ever find the courage to love again, I hope it's still you. If not, I hope you find someone who fills the spaces I couldn't stay for." I sat there, holding the note, and smiled through the ache in my chest, because even if she never came back, I knew what we had mattered. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. Months later, I heard a knock at the door. When I opened it, she was there again, standing in the same spot, under a soft drizzle this time instead of a storm. Her hair was shorter, her eyes steadier. She smiled. A real smile, the kind that carried healing. She said softly, "I told myself if I ever felt like home again, I'd come back to the place that felt like one." I didn't need to ask why she was there. She stepped closer, placed her hand on my chest, and whispered, "Is there still space left in your bed?" And with a calm I didn't know I had, I smiled and said, "What if you said you wanted to stay forever?" This time, there was no hesitation. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes, and I pulled her into my arms. The storm that had once torn us apart was gone. All that remained was the quiet peace of two hearts that had finally found their way home. We didn't promise forever that night. We didn't need to, because sometimes love doesn't need forever, it just needs one more chance. And two people brave enough to take it. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, stories about love that heals, forgiveness that saves, and second chances that remind us hope is never lost. Before you go, tell us in the comments, would you open the door for someone who once broke your heart if they came back asking for space in your life again?